I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. What's your calling? Some local women take an opportunity to learn more about religious life.
It's a new opportunity for women to come together and start building a life of community.
Angels, avatars, and James Cameron's long-awaited new movie.
And it's not about presents, discovering the real reason for the season.
I reflect more on the idea that Christ is already born.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. A lot of women wonder about it at one time or another, and recently some came to Brooklyn looking for some answers.
That's right, answers that is about religious life. And though the number of nuns has actually dwindled in this country, many women are still drawn to a religious vocation, and they want to know more about it.
And that's why earlier this week, the diocese hosted a Come and See evening, offering women a chance to come and see if they might one day want to come and stay.
Tonight we are holding an evening of prayer and conversation for women who are considering religious life. It's important for them to know that there's a place for them to pray, to discern, to speak with others. And I think in today's church, there's not enough opportunities for young men and women to share their thoughts.
I was brought here tonight for the continue looking for my vocation as a religious sister. Since younger, I always liked looking at nuns, and I was always interested in the religious life.
One of the ideas that came from a few meetings is the idea of opening a house of discernment for women to come and live in community and to experience what it means to live together and to have some guidance and some support in discernment. The diocese is fortunate in that it has a house like this for men who are preparing or at least looking at the priesthood. And with women's communities, there are so many of us, so many different communities in the diocese, that for one community to try to do this, it would be hard.
Today's event of prayer is the first opportunity that we've had to publicly talk about this concept of a women's house of discernment. The Discernment House for Men, the Pope John Paul II House of Discernment, opened in September of 2008. We had our first resident living there, and the academic year of 2008-2009, we had 8 men living there. And I'm happy to say that 5 of them are now in a seminary.
So we're thinking of this as a joint effort among some of the women's congregations, that it would be a collaborative effort and where we would share resources, possibly share personnel, and have a small group of sisters live in this house and have women who are looking seriously at religious life to come and to live for a time and just see if this is really where God is calling her.
The idea to have a house of discernment is an excellent idea. But the idea also of having different convents hold these discernment meetings would be even better, because if we're waiting to do a physical building, it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of time, and years go by, and perhaps it'll never happen.
And if the women are interested, I mean, it needs to be for them. So if there's an interest among them, then we can continue. And tonight is just like a first introduction to see if there is an interest.
That is a very good idea, because there is so many women out there looking for a resource like that. It's a new opportunity for women to come together and in a house and start building a life of community without being attached before they get to, to the convent, actually.
It's still at the dream phase. It's at the very beginning. We'll keep it going. We'll pursue it.
Well, you heard in that piece about the House of Discernment for Men in the diocese. We actually had a chance to visit there a couple of months ago, the Pope John Paul II House. And you can see that report on our website. All you have to do is go to currentsny.net.
It's so nice to be able to air out your concerns, speak and consult with folks, discern. It's, I think hard to just jump in.
Exactly.
And maybe the fear of just jumping in is perhaps what keeps some people from not even trying.
Yeah.
And so an opportunity like this to just sort of learn a little bit more and get more comfortable with it is great.
Yeah, take some time to actually get in there, living with people who are of like mind and who also might be trying to discern if they have a calling to a religious life as well. So when you're in that situation, and maybe you're living in a community like that, very resembling what would be in a convent, you can help. That can kind of help you along make that decision. If you might say this is for me, or maybe this isn't for me.
Right. Yeah. Because regular life, if you will, can be so distracting.
Yeah.
There's so many constant, things battling
so
for
much
your
noise,
attention.
Right.
Exactly. So much white noise that something like this can really allow you to focus in and see really what rises to the top.
Very much so.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. When we return, we have the day's headlines,
including an update on the controversy at St. Saviour's. I spoke there with the pastor and some parishioners today. We'll hear from them next.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, some different looks at spirituality, from Avatar, that new movie, to Advent. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Last night, we told you about some parishioners at St. Saviour's Church in Park Slope who are upset with some decisions the pastor has made there. The unrest started when Father Daniel Murphy did not renew the contract of the former principal at St. Saviour's School. A few of those unhappy parishioners are now calling for Father Murphy to be ousted as pastor of the church. Well, today I had a chance to sit down and speak with Father Murphy and some supportive parishioners to hear their side of the story. Of course, we heard on last night's show some parishioners who aren't too happy with some decisions been made and some actions that have been taken by you here at the parish and at the school. Tell me, first of all, your initial reaction to that.
I have to come to the conclusion that that's a very small but vocal minority, because what I see, what I hear is the opposite of that.
I see hundreds of parishioners, and people are very happy here. People have a sense of joy of this community, and I know that there are some people, a very small group, who are not happy with some changes that have been made.
So to come to church and see people protesting on the steps with placards and things was stunned. I just could not believe this was happening.
You know, we find that the parish is probably more tranquil than it's ever been. And my children, who are now adults, when they come back home and they're in the church, and they feel, I think, that tranquility as well. And so it's what a parish should be. That sense of companionship and spirituality. And I think under Father Murphy's watch, that has only been enhanced and grown.
Well, as I said, I've been a parishioner for 70 years, and I've seen many, 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 many pastors, and I really sincerely feel that Father Murphy is the greatest we've ever had.
You know what? Change is difficult.
Yeah.
Bottom line, but most of the people who were there are really happy and really kind of don't understand why it's still going on. I would like to just see the parish continue in the direction that it's going, and Father Murphy is taking us in a wonderful direction.
Father, what message would you have for your parishioners, just maybe all of the parishioners in general?
I would say that I give thanks every day, and this is not an exaggeration. I give thanks every single day to God that I'm at St. Saviour's. Whenever I can, I thank Bishop DiMarzio for appointing me as pastor at St. Saviour's. We're alive and well, we're growing, we're strong, we're solid, and yet we're steeped in a 102-year tradition of St. Saviour's Parish. Everything is positive here, and I would I would ask them to join me in thanking God that we're part of such a wonderful parish.
Father Daniel Murphy there from St. Saviour's Church in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Well, on Capitol Hill, the wrangling over abortion and health care reform continues. Catholic groups, including the Catholic Health Association, have endorsed a proposal put forth by Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. The proposal would offer support for pregnant women, along with language that ensures the bill does not include federal funding for abortion. It also offers conscience protections for healthcare workers. But Senator Ben Nelson, a Democrat who has been leading the fight against abortion funding, says Casey's proposal, while adding some important new initiatives, isn't sufficient.
Down under, they may soon have some special help from above. Pope Benedict is expected on Saturday to name Australia's first saint. She's Mother Mary MacKillop, who founded the Sisters of St. Joseph of the Sacred Heart. During her life, she had a number of run-ins with the hierarchy and was even briefly excommunicated for alleged insubordination. That, though, was later reversed, and Mother MacKillop went on to found schools and homes for women. She died in 1909. 2/3 of the world's people live in countries with high restrictions on religion. That is the surprising finding from a new study by the Pew Research Center. The center found the highest restrictions occur in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Iran, and the lowest in the Americas. The study also found that most countries promise religious freedom in their constitutions, but only about a quarter respect that in practice. Inappropriate and disrespectful. Just two of the words Catholic leaders in New Zealand are using to describe a billboard that appeared this week outside an Anglican church. It shows Joseph and Mary in bed with the headline, "Poor Joseph, God was a hard act to follow." The Anglican vicar at the church said only about half the people that he's heard from have called the sign offensive, and he said the aim was to get people, quote, to think more about what Christmas is all about. But some vandals have evidently decided what the billboard is all about, and they splashed paint on it just hours after it was unveiled. All right, stay with us. There's more currents to come. Just ahead, it's got high hopes at the box office, but does the new movie Avatar aim even higher? Welcome back. Well, if you find your neighborhood this weekend is a little quieter than usual, it may be because everybody's doing their last-minute Christmas shopping. They headed to the malls or whatever. Or it could be that they've all gone to the multiplex, where one big holiday movie is getting a lot of buzz. I've seen a lot of interviews on this one.
Yes, as I have as well. We're about to see another one. It's Avatar is the movie, in case you haven't heard of it. It's the science fiction epic from Titanic director James Cameron. It's his first film since Titanic, as a matter of fact. And believe it or not, the movie actually has a spiritual dimension. That's the subject of a new book called Halos and Avatars, Playing Video Games with God. To find out more, I spoke earlier by phone, earlier this week that is, with the book's editor, Craig Detweiler. Well, Craig Detweiler, thank you so much for joining me today here on Currents on the phone from California. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt.
Well, first of all, for folks who might not be familiar now, I've seen the previews. I went to see another movie last week and saw the preview for Avatar. But for folks who might not have seen that, or might not have seen all the hype surrounding this movie, in other words, for folks who may be living in a cave, can you tell us what Avatar is, what the movie's about?
Well, Avatar is really this groundbreaking 3D spectacular. James Cameron, who directed the Titanic, this is his first film in 12 years, and he had to wait for the technology to catch up to his vision. And so the entire film has really been created in computers. He's filmed real actors against a green screen, but then it comes to life in this kind of eye-popping way. And it will be the big film this Christmas season. A few years ago, you would see no films in 3D if you go to the theater, and now, you know, it seems like there's a new one every week almost. Indeed, indeed. Well, this is the biggest. This isn't really your father's or grandfather's 3D, right? Where things kind of pop out at you, and it's all kind of a trick. This is much more of an immersive experience. It's almost like being in a video game, the way that the film comes to life. The characters, it involves a Marine who can no longer walk. He's a paraplegic, and yet through the kind of magic of an avatar, of a virtual extension of himself, he's now able to enter this alien planet. And at no point do you sort of feel the film is unreal or fake. Right. The technology is so sophisticated that you're completely immersed in it. Well, now I know you have a book called Halos and Avatars,
and which kind of deals with this whole topic. Tell me a little about the book and what you would say about this kind of virtual world that he's created.
Sure. Well, many people don't realize that the word avatar itself has religious connotations. It actually comes from the Hindu faith, and in the Hindu religion, it's about one of their gods, Vishnu, who comes to Earth and takes on these forms of a fish or a tortoise or a bear.
Right.
Those of us in the Christian community, I think, can start to understand how we would think in terms of the incarnation, how Jesus descended to the earth, took on the form of a man. And so avatars themselves involve a little bit of divine descent. And so my book, Halos and Avatars, is an effort to get at the theological meaning of video games and these virtual worlds that increasingly are part of our daily lives, and particularly a huge part of young people's lives.
This new sort of virtual world of a movie, which is going to be, eventually in folks' living rooms every day, much like video games are. It's kind of taking on a new life here.
It can be a little scary or overwhelming, particularly maybe for people of faith who aren't sure they like the idea of being manipulated or manipulating a character. We're used to sort of saying, that Jesus is unchanging. So why should I get involved with something that, involves all of this manipulation? But it's really a way of imagining, a different way of being, of trying on various things. So I think for us, virtual worlds like Second Life or World of Warcraft can be a chance to try on ethical dilemmas, to figure out how we would react under battle. What would we do if someone presented us with unethical choices? How do we make the right decision?
Yeah.
Maybe it's easier to make those mistakes in a virtual game than it is in the game called life.
Right. Very quickly here, just before we have to go, if you have kids, would you recommend that they see this movie?
It's very intense. I would take that PG-13 rating seriously. But for those teenagers who are ready for an adventure, it'd be a great outing with parents and an experience they'll cherish for a long, long time.
Okay. Well, Craig Detweiler, thank you so much for being here today. On the phone, we really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks. It is. I guess it's like a 2-hour video game.
Well, perhaps.
It's a very immersive experience, as he was saying, because it's with the 3D. He said it's not your grandfather's 3D.
No. It's a $300 million movie. They're billing it as the most expensive movie ever made, and it's the only movie really that he's worked on since Titanic, which was, I think, won 11 Oscars. But the point is that I think it's interesting what he brings up, though, too, is that so many of our young people spend so much time doing video games nowadays. I never got into it really, but then again, I'm not that young. And but it's true. But really, it brings up the point that maybe that's the way to evangelize too, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a new outlet there that the church, or that we could start thinking about more. And I guess that's kind of what his book is a little bit about there.
Yeah. I guess when we had this call to the new evangelization, it didn't merely limit it to radio, TV, and the internet.
And tweeting and Facebook and whatever. We could we have We Believers little dolls, that Lino Rulli piece.
Exactly.
We had their little Bring It Home chalice and everything.
All kinds
Maybe
of.
we could have some kind of a video game.
Right. All kinds of outlets for it.
Who knows? Stay with us. We have much more Current straight ahead.
When we return, in between the hustle and bustle of shopping, locals reflect on the real meaning of Christmas.
We need to change people one person at a time.
Well, finally tonight, with all the fa-la-la-la-la, I couldn't resist.
Yeah.
Going on this time of year of the Christmas season, it's easy to lose track of something else that's really important. And that's the season that we're in right now. It's called Advent. The season of preparation for Christmas is supposed to be a time of quiet and reflection, but that can be hard to come by this time of year.
I feel like the last 3 weeks have been anything but any of that for me.
I hear you.
Which is one of the reasons. The Passionist Retreat House in Jamaica, Queens recently hosted a one-day retreat called 'Tis the Reason for the Season. Little reminder here, a chance for folks to think about what this time of year really means. And we sent our cameras over to take a look.
So the reason for the season, it's to let Christ be born in us. Normally when we talk about Advent, the theme is presented to us by the church that this is a season for waiting. We're waiting for something great to happen. But something we think of as down the road. It's going to happen on the 24th, the night of the 24th. Some dramatic thing is going to happen in our lives. Something new is going to be born in our lives.
We're here today to gather as really to offer a day of recollection, a spiritual day in preparation for the coming of Christmas, and it's called an Advent Day of reflection.
During this Advent season, it's important to spend some time reflecting on the Christmas story and what it means to us as individuals. Usually the Advent season is a time of, the theme is waiting for Christ to be born on Christmas. But I reflect more on the idea that Christ is already born, and we're waiting for Christ to come out clear in our own lives.
God has already been born into our human family, as fully as God's ever going to be born. God among us, becoming one of us.
Bishop Malloy Retreat House has been offering spiritual programs here, both day and evening programs as well as weekend programs from the early 20s.
And yet, can we let Christ be born in the possibility in the midst of that pain? Well, I hope they walk out of here feeling that Christ has been born in their lives over and over and over, almost every day since the beginning of their lives, and that they can help Christ be born this year by being people of courage and compassion, as I said, but that they'll be walking away today with a greater sense of peace, and it might help them celebrate all the hectic things that are going to be about in Christmas. I can't change the world. I find it difficult changing myself sometimes, but God can change me. And slowly, I'm being changed into a more Christ-like person. So I can affect the world around me. I can affect the people around me. I can have an impact on my family members, the people I work with every day, to treat them as Christ-like people, to remember that they are children of God. They're not children of their fear or their anger or their past, but they're children of God. And if I can remember that when I meet people every day, I'll have an impact on them, and hopefully they'll have an impact on someone else. And that's how you change the world, one person at a time. God does it with all of us at the same time, but we need to change people, affect people really, one person at a time.
There's the hustle and the bustle, and then there's the real reason for this sort of season of Advent, and that is the anticipation, the waiting, the sort of quieting yourself and that anticipation of the birth of Christ. And it's a season that unfortunately often gets so overlooked in all that goes on around us.
It seems like from, the Halloween to now, it's just one big blur.
Oh yeah.
And it gets a little, I think it messes with your head sometimes. And to try and take the time, whether it's on Sundays when you go to church or whether it's just sort of quietly, on your own on a regular basis, or when you maybe open up your Advent calendar and, have that be a little ritual at home or whatnot. I just feel like, for me especially, coming to New York, being new here, having, as we do this new job and it's been a little crazy and it's been a little hard, trying to make new friends, trying to connect with people. So it's been a little different for me. I haven't had that sort of solid footing, but next week when I go home to Boston, I'll have the tree and Mom and the food and everything. So maybe that'll be the time when I can reflect.
Absolutely. And I'll be on Georgia doing the same thing.
Yes.
So there we go.
Well, that's it for this edition of Currents. Remember, you can always catch us online at currentsny.net, and you can become a fan on Facebook. Just drop by facebook.com/currentsny. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Have a great night and a great weekend.